Welcome back. Well, as I imagine you have already surmised from my fashion statement, I have something a little lighthearted on our agenda today. I thought today we would talk about conspiracy theories. And first, I want to say I love conspiracy theories. Boy, nothing gets me excited like a good conspiracy. And the thing is, not all of them are off in la la land. The Catalan conspiracy in ancient Rome, that was first century BCE, that was real. That was a plot. I believe Cicero was credited with uncovering it. And, we all know Cicero was no small thing. The Pazzi plot in Renaissance Florence, that was real. The gunpowder plot, England still celebrates Guy Fawkes Day. That is something every little British schoolchild can tell you about. And here in the US, our little school children can tell you about Benedict Arnold selling the plans to West Point and about John Wilkes Booth, jumping down from the stage and shooting Lincoln. So just because it's a conspiracy does not mean it's a fantasy. So having said that, when we come back, we are going to take a look at some current conspiracies. And of course, I'm going to have to secure my little hat so that the birds don't come along and steal my sense of direction. That would be tragic. See you in a minute. So what are the conspiracy theories that I want to talk about now? Well, we have a pandemic, and not everybody believes that this is a naturally occurring illness. And I pulled out some of the most popular of the conspiracy theories, and I thought we would talk about them. Just throw them out there and see if they resonate with any of you. I'm sure they do resonate with some of us, at least in little part, because a good conspiracy theory to catch on really needs to plug into some sort of primal fear or concern that we have as a society. So why don't we start with the big one, that this is really not a pandemic. This is a Chinese bioweapon. So, what are the arguments in favor of it being a Chinese bioweapon? Well, it started in China, but isn't that enough? Well, maybe not. Okay. It started in China, and we know the Chinese have chemical labs in Wuhan, in the area that it started in. So I'm going to take this off for a moment and argue. Yes, but there were many, many people killed in China. Why would they kill their own people? Because they have 1.5 billion people. They have more than enough people to waste every now and then. Yeah, but we have 1/3 of 1 billion people. So granted, we're pretty far behind them, but our population is still growing and their population is decreasing. So they're going to feel a population hit pretty hard. I mean, their population is going down after all. Part of that, probably a big part of that, is China's one-child family policy in the second half of the 20th century, where as a form of population control, families were fined for having more than one child. And it had the additional and probably perfectly expected consequence of raising the ratio of males to females in China to the highest in the world. because it's a culture in which male children are more valued than female children historically. And if you're only going to get one shot at it, well, you want that to be a boy. So whereas other countries have male to female ratios of like 1.04, I think the US is like 1.06, China has 1.15. It is the highest in the world. So if any threat to population comes along, they're going to be hard hit, especially because their population is expected to decrease over time, whereas other populations are expected to increase. They've still got enough people to burn. Okay. What about herd immunity? All right, that's a valid point. Yes, the Chinese did in fact hesitate before confining their population, and perhaps that could be seen as a desire to develop herd immunity. Now, what is herd immunity? We've heard a lot about that, but here's how it goes basically. If a large enough percentage of your population, in general, we're looking at a minimum of nearly 3/4, so we want 70% or more. If 70% is immune to a disease, it's called herd immunity. It serves to immunize the remaining 30% or less, because you want 70, 80, 90%. It's that remaining small percent who are not immune are protected. How are they protected? 7 out of 10 people they run into are immune, cannot catch the disease, and cannot give it to them. That gives them a lot of protection. So, did the Chinese do this in order to acquire herd immunity? Probably not. That herd immunity is a sort of long-term plan. You have to be thinking pretty far forward. It has absolutely worked in the past, and we have seen this. We have seen the absolute eradication of diseases as a result of massive immunizations, which has created a situation in which an overwhelming majority of the population is immune, not passing it on. So it's worked in the past, absolutely. See, I'm right. Okay. Ultimately, concerns about China using a virus as a bioweapon are not new. We heard the same talk during SARS, even though that outbreak hit Asia very hard, and the Asian population suffered much more than anyone else. Okay, excuse me. Trial run, trial run. Okay. This goes back to Cold War fears. Those in my generation remember this duck and cover drills. We hid under our school desks because we somehow thought that was going to protect us from nuclear war. I'm not sure it did anything other than raise an entire generation of children to fear people from China, from Russia, just people who had a different political ideology than we do. That simple. Scared the bejesus out of us. As a consequence, we are susceptible to theories like this. It resonates with us. They are communists, therefore they are the enemy. They are trying to kill us. Is that true? Good heavens, probably not. I'm sure they are just as scared of us as we were of them when we were hiding under our desks. But the point is, a bioweapon is so unpredictable that any major power seeking to eliminate its enemies using a bioweapon, that's just utterly foolish. And the Chinese people are not stupid people. It's not as if somehow they all came out of the womb with 50 or 60 fewer IQ points than the rest of us. Anything like that puts them as much at risk as it puts us. So maybe we can dismiss that one. I have another one that I like very much, and this is the Bill Gates theory. Oh, let's talk about that. We have a major pandemic. We are going to need to immunize people, and Bill Gates is going to put trackers in the immunization shots so that he can track every person on the planet. It's just who he is. Okay. Now, personally, I'm no fan of Microsoft. Really, I'm not. No fan whatsoever. Every time they do something twitchy to my computer, I am cursing Bill Gates for days. Every time they do an automatic update and they change all my settings and I have to go back and change them all back again. Well, you just don't want to be around my house and hear what I'm calling that man. Is he going to put trackers in an immunization shot and track everyone? No. And here's why. We've all got Windows. If he wants to track us, he can do it through the software on our computers. Not a problem. Bill Gates has no need to step outside of that little laptop or the smartphone or whatever you've got if it's got a Microsoft product on it. Bill Gates has probably already gotten you to promise your firstborn child in exchange for your rights to use his program, which you paid for a limited period of time, because once that license expires, he's going to expect you to buy the same thing you already bought again. So, hey, he doesn't need to do this. He's already got us. 5G. Now, this is one I had to look up. So let's start with, we all know 5G is pumping vast amounts of radiation. It's all over the place. And the radiation is poisoning us. There really is no coronavirus. This is poison. And it's radiation, and that's what's making us all sick. And that's why nobody can stop it, and that's why it's so widespread. And you notice the minute they came up with 5G, we all started getting this. It was just the same thing, boy. They started coming up with the internet, and we started getting sick. They've been doing this. Radio waves, remember that? Spanish flu followed right away. These people are dangerous. 5G is a system of using wider bandwidths for internet communication. Now, I don't want to get this too complicated, and frankly, I can't get too complicated on this because this is not my sphere of expertise. But we are currently using small sections of the bandwidth, and there's very little bandwidth left available. And it limits our ability to download information, and it limits the speed with which we can download information. And this is our smartphones, our internet, any device we have that is working wirelessly, all of it. By increasing the bandwidth, going to faster speeds means shorter distances, but if you can combine slower speeds with the longer distances, with faster speeds and shorter distances, the theory is they are going to be able to download all kinds of information virtually instantaneously. Again, the theory is that this is going to be a massive boon to the healthcare industry. You think it, and you've got it in front of you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Who knows? I am not a technology guru. I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know how well or how poorly this is going to work out. However, the image that people have of this, of 5G, is, no, I'll show you. It's like, I'll show you. It's like Nikola Tesla sitting in that Faraday cage with electricity all around him. That's not what it is. The bandwidth is already there. There's nothing new is being created. We're just using something that we were not using before. So, is this going to radiate us? Oh, no. Does this mean there is no such thing as coronavirus and it's all 3G? No, of course not. Wait, no. Here's what happens. The radiation doesn't poison us, but it weakens our immune system so that when the coronavirus does come along, we're more susceptible. Now, poor health, inadequate nutrition, not enough exercise, these are things that weaken your immune system. Stress weakens your immune system. We've got a whole battery. Go on the internet sometime and just run a search. What will weaken my immune system? Take a look at that and shore things up. Make sure you're eating properly. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Keep the stress levels down in your life. Get exercise. Look at vitamins. There are a lot of things you can do to improve your immune system that are not flaky or wacky and that will help. But is 3G going to disturb your immune system? I really don't see how. This is all a government plot. And the reason we know this is go take a look at those hospitals. Go down to your own hospital and take a look. Nobody's in there. They're not full of sick people. They tell us they're full of sick people. There are no sick people in those hospitals. The hospitals are empty. This is a government plot. They're using this to control us. They're going to declare martial law. They're going to pack us all off into FEMA camps. We are doomed. Doomed, I say. Well, hospitals are empty. Hospitals in my area this past week have gone back to scheduling elective surgery. They didn't have anywhere near the number of COVID-19 cases they were expecting. They are not overwhelmed. They are not inundated. I do not doubt that the people who have, done this forced lockdown are going to take credit for that. The truth is, the numbers alone tell us that our healthcare system in the U.S. has always been perfectly capable of withstanding a pandemic. The fact that healthcare systems in other parts of the world were not is tragic. But we are the pioneers of medical science. We have an urgent care center on every block. We have medical care here. So we were not flooded. We were not inundated. Our resources were more than adequate to fill the needs. And now we're opening it back up again. Even though today you go in and you're going to see empty hospitals, that's because people are in forced lockdown and there's social isolation, and that's where they are. So that's why hospitals might appear empty. They are all in FEMA relocation camps. We're going to be herded off to concentration camps, and we're all going to be experimented on or killed or both. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever, and people have been saying FEMA relocation camps and concentration camps for a very, very long time. No evidence. We have laws in place so that you cannot casually declare martial law. We've had those laws in place for like 170 years, ever since the Civil War, frankly. We've had laws in place so that you can't deploy troops against your own population willy-nilly. That's not something you can just up and do. We're going to use the army to keep people in line. No. So my take on this is that most of these theories, well, all of the ones that we've discussed, really don't have a lot of substance. Little parts of them may ring true, but overall, no. Now, there was one theory that I sort of left by the wayside because I am unable to get enough information. And this is, the COVID-19 Walmart connection. It's out there. There is absolutely a theory that Walmart is somehow behind COVID-19, but I could not get enough information, even though that was the one I really wanted to get for you, because I'm sure it has something to do with asking for your receipt when you leave the store. But can't get anything like that. I think it is related to the FEMA theory, because if you throw in COVID-19, Walmart, and conspiracy theory into the search engines, FEMA starts coming up left and right. Unfortunately, I'm sure that our tinfoil hats, see, I told you, if there was no conspiracy, then why would it be coming up? They're going to take that and run with it. All right, so those are the current batch of conspiracy theories. They are being taken very seriously in some quarters. We recently spoke about advertising on YouTube, and I am getting ads. I have to go in and tweak my profile again because this is a little scary. I am getting ads for a publication. I was tempted to call it a newspaper, but I don't think this is news at all, that is actually putting forth some of these theories. And these are high quality ads. It makes this publication actually seem like a real newspaper, like it's the Washington Post or the New York Times or something, and it's got a headline about Chinese conspiracies. So it's getting a lot of traction in some quarters. But I would say for the most part, we know better. All right, so now that we have taken a look at some conspiracy theories, and hopefully we've gotten a little chuckle. But please keep in mind that just because I may think the theories are entertaining does not mean that I think the people who believe the theories are laughable. No. As I said, in general, these theories resonate for a reason. I remember the duck and cover drills. I do. First time somebody says Chinese bioweapon, my knee-jerk reaction is just, my heart kind of jumps a little because I remember. No, we are all vulnerable to this sort of thing. So just because somebody has a point of view that is different from ours doesn't mean we ought to just blow them off as a crank. Who knows? For all we know, the people who wandered around saying, I think Benedict Arnold has stolen the plans to West Point were dismissed as tinfoil hat freaks. Word origins. When we deal with politics, we are apt to become involved in cabals and conspiracies. And these two words might be good ones with which to begin the shorter word stories that are grouped in the following pages. Political conspirators usually talk in low whispers behind closed doors in smoke-filled rooms. On such occasions, the atmosphere is so tense that those who are there almost breathe together. All of which is suggested by conspiro, the Latin forerunner of conspiracy, which was formed from con, together, and spiro, breathe. A near cousin to conspiracy is cabal, which also has the sense of a secret meeting or intrigue, although the derivation is widely different. Cabal traces back finally to the Hebrew word Kabbalah, which was applied to the mystic interpretation of the scriptures, an art that was said to have been handed down by the Jewish prophet Moses to the rabbis. In this way, the word became associated with the dark plots and underhand schemes that are hatched up by the members of a cabal. Cabals and conspiracies are frequent concomitants of politics, and politics have to do with the affairs of state and the citizens within it. If we follow the history of the word politics back far enough, we will discover that its beginnings rest in the Greek word polites, or citizen. And polites is derived from polis, city. Oh, and we are not done. Here we go. Quarantine. 40 days. The length of time that a ship is now held in quarantine varies with the nature of the contagious disease that it is suspected of being aboard. But years ago, the quarantine was for a flat 40 days. The word quarantine comes eventually from the Latin quadraginta, 40. And this magic number 40 has several uses in our language. Quarantena, for example, was the medieval Latin name given to the desert where Christ fasted for 40 days. And in the early Roman Catholic Church, a quarantine was a penance or fasting lasting the same period of time. Now it is an indulgence corresponding to such penance. In common law, we have the widow's quarantine, which permits the bereaved woman to live in her deceased husband's house for a period of 40 days after his death. It would seem that there is a bit of religious significance in this mystic number 40. Oh, by the way, the reason a widow was ordinarily allowed to live in her husband's house for 40 days was to ensure that she was not carrying his child, his heir. 40 days is enough time to show up pregnant or not pregnant. Although, interestingly enough, by law, I believe the longest pregnancy legally on record was about 13 months, determining the birth from a husband who had died. Interesting, but that was sort of a legal fiction. Woman had a child 13 months after the husband died, and it was determined to be his by the court. Just a little bit of trivia. All right, so we've had a little bit of lightness today, and I think it's about time. Some of you, by the way, are looking at being released from lockdown. Congratulations. Seriously, I am so envious, and I am deliriously happy for you that you are getting your lives back. Fantastic. When you go out there and have fun, bring it back. Come on, stick it in the comments. Share it with us, because the rest of us are still at home alone. All right. Have a great day. I'll see you all tomorrow. And remember, tomorrow's Project Day. See you then.